Bonjour, 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 and welcome back to my channel, The Waves of Your Soul. Today's video is a very highly requested video on my channel, something that I've been meaning to do for months, and we're finally gonna be looking at my French decks. So if you cannot tell by the very heavy accent, I am French, and I've been showing on this channel many different French decks along the way, decks from French creators, mass market, indie, and every single time I show one, there's so many of you that's like, can you please do a video on the French decks you have? Some decks you might never see. Unless you're French, you wouldn't necessarily be seeing them. Maybe it could be a way to see some different things, to expand your horizon, learn something new. And so I've been really wanting to do a video dedicated to my French decks. The thing is, I have many, so we're going to be splitting this in different parts so that it's not too much, it's still manageable. I think I'll have like 10 decks per part, and I'll just keep posting decks around this series. I'll put a hashtag my French decks so that eventually when I continue to show you my French deck collection, you can click on that hashtag and it will show you all the videos part of this series. So I've actually thought through this process for once in my life. I thought through something and I have decided to try and categorize all of the decks I'm going to show you by easiness of approach for non-French speakers. And so we're going to get into that so that you can see how easy it is to use that deck, even if you don't know a word of French. Even if the only thing you know about French is that song with Christina Aguilera, Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? That's fine, that's fine. You can still enjoy some of those French decks. I'm gonna get into this, I'm gonna get into showing you some decks, I'm gonna get into how I've categorized them, and we're gonna be having a good time. So if you're new here, hi, my name is Marine, I'm a French tarot reader, duh! I think I've already said that. On this channel I love posting videos about tarot and oracle decks, which are a huge passion of mine. And I also love posting pick a card readings, empowering tarot readings, all in the vibes of helping you to help yourself. That's very much my vibe. So if you'd like to see any of those things on your timeline, make sure to hit the subscribe button, join the tide. I would love to have you. Of course, no pressure. And you can find all of my social medias, Instagram, TikTok, in the description box below. Name of all the decks I'm going to talk about will be in the description box below. I don't think I'll put links because depending on where you live, you'll be shopping from different places. I'll let you purchase where you want. Most of these decks you can find on Amazon.fr, which is a French version of Amazon. Price at the end of the video, and if I were you, I would stick till the end because I decided to use this video to give back a little. So watch till the end so you don't miss the surprise. And without further ado, voulez-vous some French decks? This is going to be a series, so prepare to see more videos. With time, I will slowly but surely get around to showing you all of the French deck I have. All the French decks I have, I bought myself. I am not sponsored by anybody. I'm just sharing out of passion because I love discovering decks from people that are from another culture, another language. I find that so fulfilling. I think there is so much we can learn from other people, from expanding our worldview. And you seem to all agree, because like I was saying earlier, this is a very requested video. So just wanted to say this is not sponsored or anything. I'm just sharing because I've been asked. And because there's so many cool decks from French creators, just like I'm sure there's so many good decks by Spanish creators, Filipino creators. This is not supposed to be saying French decks are the best or anything like that. It's just a window to open your mind to new things. As I wanted this video to be about introducing French decks to people who don't speak French, I designed this very serious grade level in order for you to be able to understand whether or not this would be a deck that would be easy for you to approach. This deck was approved by the MIT Institute of Frenchness. No, it was not. But here is how I've decided to kind of categorize it for you. So any decks that I have decided to put in the category croissant are going to be decks that to me are very easy to understand. Even if the only French word you know is merde, that is okay. You should still be able to understand. That is because for the croissant category, we have decks that are either very intuitive, the images speak for themselves, the guidebook could be in French and in English, even though it's still from French creators, just straight to the point. You don't need really to translate anything. You could if you wanted to, but it's one of those decks that you can kind of take and use without really knowing that much French. That's what the croissant category is about. The second category is the category of the roosters. Cocorico! Don't worry, I cringe myself too. So, in the Cocorico category, this is my intermediate category in the sense that there's maybe a bit text that needs translating, but it's not so much. So you could easily get around with Google Translate as an app, scan the text. You might want to get into the guidebook to get a little bit more info, although it's not mandatory. It's just a deck, those kind of decks that still approachable, even if you don't know any French, but it might require just a little bit more effort and work and time put in your deck than, say, for example, the CROISSANT, which are just those kinds that you can take out of the box and start using. Finally, for my last category, we have the category of the French flag. And for this last category, those are decks that you will need to rely yourself more on the guidebook. You don't have to, but the guidebook usually has a ton of juicy information. There might be more text on the card. There's just like more to the deck, more depth, more study to it. And so you would, if you wanted to make the most of this particular deck and the knowledge that's behind it, and when people put work into it, it could be advised, I will say, because I'll never tell you what to do, but I would recommend that you translate some of the guidebook, that you spend more time with it. So this is for the people who are either Francophiles, speak a little bit of French, or even if you don't speak any French, people who are willing to spend more time translating something in order to make the most out of the deck. Of course, you do you, boo. And so if one of the decks that is supposed to be a little bit more text heavy speaks to you and you don't give a shit about the text at all, you just want to use the images, I'm not there to stop you. You go ahead and enjoy. I just try to make these different categories in order to give you a little bit of a glimpse as to what you could be getting from a French-speaking person to my potential non-French viewers. I hope this will be useful. And so, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start with a deck that I feel a lot of you must be familiar with, but I think is still definitely deserving of a shout out. This is Le Tarot de Marseille Waite by Emmanuel Iger and Alice Laverty. This is a mass market French deck, so you should be able to find it on Amazon.fr or any kind of website that sells French decks where you live, I don't know, but it's mass market. In French it retails for 24 euros, and this is a really cool tarot deck. So, first of all, the category. This is in the category Croissant, because it's a tarot deck, and if you know the tarot system, even if you don't speak a word of French, it will be very easy for you to get along with this deck. As you can see, it comes in a little pouch. In there, you have a very short guidebook, few keywords for each of the cards, but this is a very cool and unique concept where the creators decided to combine the Tarot de Marseille and the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot. So this is why it's called the Marseille Waite tarot. So the majors, as you can see here with Le Pape, which is a hierophant, are very inspired by the traditional Marseille, Tarot de Marseille decks, whereas the minors are actually inspired by the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So this is why it's a combination. It's the Marseille Waite because majors are Marseille and minors are the RWS. And honestly, for me, it's the best of both worlds. Because I'll be honest, even though I'm French, and I shouldn't really say that, I don't find Marseille decks to be that inspiring. I totally appreciate them for their historical value, and I find them really beautiful. It's just that as a reader, they're not necessarily what excites me to read with. I still really want to go deeper into my studies, and like I said, for their historical value, I find them fascinating, but I prefer to read with the RWS. However, I find the majors from the Marseille to be so potent and so powerful, and here we have the best of both worlds. As you can see, the image look very medieval. This is because this deck was actually researched through a lot of medieval grimoires. So the creators of this deck went through old French parchments, old French grimoires from the medieval times, from the Middle Ages, and they went through like old illuminated books, etc., to try and find little images that they could integrate into this deck to redraw it in the style of the time. So they looked for a horse, they looked for a snail, for example, for the Nine of Pentacles. They tried to find coins and people's faces, etc., that were really existing in older text, older manuscripts, to redraw here in this particular deck. So this is why it looks so cohesive, because actually everything on those cards exist from old manuscripts. I love that there was so much historical research behind this deck. I love that we get the mix of the MERCI majors with the minors from the RWS. I think it works really well as a reading deck. It looks really good, it looks really cohesive, and overall it's totally a deck that anyone who knows tarot could use. I mean, yes, the titles are in French, but everyone knows that this is the Queen of Pentacles. I really truly feel like it would be easy to understand, and I really enjoy this one. Even the backs, I forgot to say that even the backs come from an actual old French manuscript that they found in La Bibliothèque Nationale, which is like the official, I guess, French archives for books and stuff. So there's a lot of thought that went into this deck. I think this is a little gem. I'm so happy this exists mass market. I think it's really affordable, 24 euros, and I totally would recommend this one if you're in the market for a historical looking deck that actually has some substance, because this is historical looking because it was actually inspired by real historical images, and I think that's awesome. Let's move on to an oracle deck. This is a mass market oracle, L'Oracle des Êtres Fantastiques. This is by Gumio and Stephanie Paco, and this would translate to the Oracle of the Fantastic Beings. So as you can imagine, this is going to be very fantasy creatures inspired. So here is the box. In France, it retails for €24.90, so 25. There is a really good guidebook. For each card you get a colored image and you get a message, which is about a page and a half, sometimes 2 pages. It is silver edged, and here are the backs. As you can see, it's very glossy, so you can see my camera here. Hello! So I've put this in the category of Cocorico. Am I gonna get tired of saying that? I don't think so. So this is a rooster category because I feel like this would be a deck that is easy to understand intuitively from the images, especially if you're familiar with a lot of those fantastic beings. But the guidebook does give you useful information, so you might want to be translating a little bit that guidebook. So that's why I've put it in that intermediate category. Like, you could use it intuitively, but there is good information in the guidebook if you can be bothered to translate. As you can see, it's very photo collage style, and every card represents a different fantasy being. So here we have the ghost, here we have the hippogriff. No idea if that's how you say it in English, but never mind. We have a unicorn card, we have a gnome card, we have a werewolf card. This is a dream catcher. Here we have the kraken. Here we have the goblin. As you can see, it's fairly easy to understand, and even though some of those names differ in French and in English, you recognize a lot of those magical creatures, I think, especially if you're familiar with fantasy. We have Pegasus here, especially if you're into those fantasy or anything mythological, anything to do with fantasy books and fantasy stories. I feel like you would probably really enjoy. It's a beautiful deck. And this is not my favorite card. It does remind me of, do you guys have that in your countries? There's like this brand, the Green Giant, I guess you could translate it in English, that sells like peas and vegetables in cans. This is what it reminds me of. Le géant vert, we call it in French. But every other card I love. This is beautiful. Here we have the owl. Very beautiful artwork. The guidebook is very interesting. It is written in the sense of those creatures being your guide, and how would they, if you pick this particular card, how does it translate into your life, this particular energy. So if you pick the siren, it would be about seduction and maybe your self-image, and maybe about trying to, how you're seducing others, or how you're being seduced by others. So you can do some self-empowerment work with this, some introspection work, you can do some journaling with this. It's more introspective, I would say, but of course, on top of that, if you're a fantasy lover, then I think you would really enjoy this deck. The guidebook is well written, like I was saying. You don't have to use a guidebook, especially if you are familiar with those particular creatures. You've already made your personal associations, your personal stories and stuff, and you just enjoy the artwork. That would be another possibility, but I really enjoy this one, and it's called L'Oracle des Êtres Fantastiques. Next up, we have another oracle deck. This is called L'Oracle Bleu, and I have the version that is by Grimaud Cartomancie. L'Oracle Bleu is an oracle that has been published by many different editions, many different publishing houses. So even though when you order it, whatever you found, you might not find this exact same box set, maybe you'll find another one, but the cards are always the same. So I just want to put that out there. You might see that the format changes and stuff, but the cards look the same. But that's the one I have. So it's mass market, and this is in the category croissant. So everyone can enjoy it because the cards are in different languages. So even though this was created by French creators, we have different languages on the card. The guidebook though is only in French. So that's something to note. On the card you have the titles in Spanish, English, and French. The guidebook is only in French. However, I have still put it in my croissant category because I don't believe you need the guidebook. This is a very predictive style reading. I'm showing you the guidebook. As you can see, for each word, each card, for example love, you have another couple keywords. So for the love card, another extra keywords would be the couple, the lovers, and harmony. It's not rocket science. Right? I feel like we could all guess that. So even though the guidebook is only in French, I think this is accessible to everyone, and this is the kind of deck that you could just pick up and start using straight from the box. Here are the backs. I love those backings, they're so beautiful. And this is called l'oracle bleu, literally meaning the blue oracle, because as you're gonna see, everyone is a Smurf. No, but everyone is very blue. There's a lot of blue in this deck, and I love blue, so that's really awesome to me. So as I was saying, each card you have the French keyword, you have the Spanish keyword, and you have the English keyword, making this very accessible for a lot of people. For me, it's a very predictive style oracle deck. It's perfect for those kind of like predictive reading because it's truly traditional French cartomancy, where they are very much inspired by l'oracle Béline and l'oracle G and l'oracle des miroirs, those kind of vibes, where you have seasons here, you have the elements. So if you wanted to, for example, find out someone's star sign, you could use this deck. If you wanted to try and date something, you have the seasons to help you. You have some significator cards. Here you have the young woman, the young man, and the woman, I believe. This is an older deck, right? Keep in mind, this has been out, I'd say maybe 20 years. Don't quote me on that, but it's been around for a while. So, and the keywords are very well balanced. Here we have the sacrifice, and here we have the guide. Like, there's a lot, it's very well balanced. There's a lot of cards, 73 cards in this deck. And for me, it really is perfect for predictive reading, for week ahead readings, for getting a look into a situation. I mean, this could also be used, of course, for development work or introspection work or anything like that. But to me, as my personal experience, found it easier to use for more readings around the situation or months ahead or anything like that, pure because of the nature of the cards. So here we have the house, we have the arts, we have loyalty, the hope, revolution, the collapsed world. What an interesting card, right? The knight, the light, the solicitor. So as you can see, some of those cards are very day-to-day related, and some of them are a little bit more spiritual. But overall, I think this artwork is so stunning. I love the size. It's slightly smaller than a regular tarot deck, a little bit wider, but let me find a tarot deck to compare. I forgot to do that with the other ones, but you know, I'm just trying to be a good tarot tuber. So as you can see, the oracle cards are smaller than regular tarot cards, so I feel like the size is also very handy. I love the fact that there's a lot of cards. I love the fact that everyone is blue. It looks beautiful in a spread. It's really unique, I think, and this is a very underrated deck. Like I said, it's been around for a long time. It does give me a little bit of Tarot of the Sweet Twilight vibes, and actually I just realized filming this that maybe this could be an amazing pairing. So maybe this is inspired. I need to try it after I'm done filming. This could be a great idea. Let's move on to something completely different. We have Les Cartes Divinatoires d'Algariel by Alcide Nathanael. This is another mass market oracle deck. So in France it retails for 21 euros, and I have decided to put this in the croissant category. The box is quite small, and there are 32 cards, so there's not that many, but this is a very powerful deck, people. So I'm letting you know, this is a very unique deck, very different deck, that I don't have anything else in my collection like that, and it's really cool. So why did I put this in my croissant category? Because the guidebook half of it is in French and half of it is in English. And as you can see, for the English side, we have the name of the card, we have keyword, we have a divination meaning, and we have a past life meaning. This is because this deck was created with the idea of it being able to use as a regular oracle deck, but also there is a whole added layer of meaning to it where you can use this to study your past lives, to go deeper into your past life if you so believe in those things, if you choose to. You don't have to use this deck that way. It's just an added layer that Alcide decided to create around the deck. But overall, this deck is very deep and it's very profound. Here are the backs. And as you can see, the cards are a little bit longer, but narrower than regular tarot size. I really like the look of this deck. And the paintings on this look like they have been really channeled from source. They look very deep and profound, and this deck doesn't leave people indifferent usually because of the nature of the paintings, which feel very deep, very raw, very profound. So I find this deck very useful for any kind of spiritual questions, any questions where you want to try and communicate with something larger than you, even if that's just your higher self. You don't have to believe in the divine or the universe or anything like that. It could just be your higher self, but this deck is very spiritually led. I guess it's giving me like Shimmering Veil vibes, and you know, those kind of decks that I wouldn't necessarily approach for day-to-day readings. Personally, again, this is just my personal experience. You might have a different, very different experience from me using the deck. It has its own system, so each card represents a particular object or a particular scene that the creator gave meaning to, and so you can use the guidebook to understand this. Like I said, the guidebook is in English and in French, so this is easily to access for everyone. And this deck has given me very profound readings. And this is actually going to a friend of mine now. I have a feeling that she needs this deck, so it's going to her. I hope she'll enjoy it. But I think the drawings and paintings are absolutely beautiful. In order to use it for past life readings, each card has a particular past life meaning. So for example, for the card 19, the card 19 is the isolated tower. The meanings is dreams that come true, divinatory dream and isolation. And for past lives, it's related to royalty, prince, princesses, kings and queens. Some of the past life meanings are very specific, some of them are a lot more broad. For example, here, a very old soul with a great deal of experience. So the great thing about those kind of decks is that you, from when you start to use them, you make your own meanings, you add your own layers, you add your intuitive muscles, you channel what you want. You don't have to go on from the guidebook, you can make your own. If this particular flower reminds you of something, you have to go with your gut and follow that instead of what you see on the particular guidebook. So this is the Carte Divinatoire d'Algariel. There is a separate guidebook that you could buy, like a proper big guidebook, that I feel might be out of print right now, but I don't have it, and it's never stopped me from enjoying the decks and getting great readings. But I'm just putting it out there for people who like to have everything. You can do your research if you so wish. Let me move my incense away because I feel like it's all burnt out. And we'll get my little friend to come and join us. I feel like he wants to join us for the French tour, so. L'Oracle Aromatique by Lucie Christian. This is by the publishing house Arcana Sacra. It's another mass market deck. 90% of the decks I'm going to show you today are mass market, purely because when I buy French decks, usually it's at the bookshop, and that's usually mass market decks. So again, hopefully that should mean it's even easier for you to buy, because you can go on Amazon.fr and things like that. Look at this gorgeous box. I mean, we love. And in France, this retails for 22 euros. So this is literally translated to L'Oracle Aromatique, so the aromatic oracle. Yay, English, you're doing it right, Marine. So as you might guess, this is inspired by scents, specifically essential oils, and I adore this deck. This is one of my all-time favorites French decks that exist. I think it's beautiful, I think it's so well done. I think for this particular price, 22 euro, it's a steal, and I can't recommend this deck enough. First of all, let's speak about the category. I have put this in the category Cocorico, the rooster category. This is inspired by essential oils and plants. So I feel like if you are familiar with plants, you would be able to understand this deck. Totally. Look at those gorgeous packings. And by the way, I've edged my copy in purple. It didn't come like that, but I've used the deck so much that the edges were starting to get really dirty, so I had to do something. This is not croissant, but it's cocorico, because even though a lot of you would be familiar with the plants and the essential oils, the guidebook is very interesting, and it's got a lot there to dig into, so I feel like it would be useful to translate the guidebook, because for each card, look at this gorgeous card by the way. So this is an incense card. We have a keyword, elevation, we have the Latin name, we have keywords, so elevation, prayer and guidance. Here we have a message about the incense plant or the incense essential oil as a spirit or as an essence or as an archetype, you know, as a energy, I guess. Ooh, how many words can I come up with? Usually we have a quote, sometimes like an interesting quote, and then on the back you have the actual message responding to your reading. Then you have a color association, so here it's the color is gold. You have a stone or crystal association, so it's agate. We have a chakra association, so here it's the crown chakra. And finally, for every single card, you have an energetical or smell association, and she's referring you back to other essential oils that would get along energetically speaking and smelly speaking. I don't know how you say that. Like they smell good together, and they also get along together in terms of their energy with that card you pulled. So for example, the incense card, it goes well with eucalyptus, lotus and myrrh. I don't know how you say that in English. The characters that corresponds to those particular plants that from the deck. So this is why I think it's a Cocorico deck, because there is material in the guidebook to get into if you are willing to. Even though this would be super easy to use, especially if you're familiar with plants, I feel like this is a deck that you could take it from the go. But not everyone is super into plants and essential oils and stuff, so that's why I've put it in that particular category. The cards, and actually we have one of my favorite cards right on the go. We have vanilla, and each card is represented by a person, like a vintage photography style person. We have the name of the plant. They're not necessarily essential oils, they are more plants that smell good. Some of them exist in the form of incense, some of them exist in the form of essential oils, but it's all to do with the sense of smell, right? The olfactive kind of factor. So the keyword for vanilla is comfort, and you also have a botanical representation of vanilla, which is why I feel anyone who's familiar with plants could really get this deck and understand it very easily. So here, for example, we have chamomile, and the keyword is sensibility. I find this deck absolutely stunning, and I am so happy to see vintage photography depicting people from all over the world and from all different type of age. So I love that about this deck, is that it actually does, for me, vintage photography done right, because a lot of the vintage photography decks out there, they represent a lot of the same people. Here we see people from different ethnicities and different age, and I think that's awesome. So here we have violet, and the keyword is benevolence. For lavender, this is lavender with healing. We have mint for vigilance. Geranium is blossoming, I guess you could say. Is another one of my favorite. We have tonka bean. I love tonka beans in pastries and stuff. It kind of like gives a little bit like a vanilla scent. This is a lemon, it's linked to joy. We have camphor, linked to power, and this is another one of my ultimate favorite cards. We have cinnamon, and it's linked to vitality, and just the whole vibe of this card makes me super happy. So as you can see, I find the collage style really beautiful. The guidebook is super interesting. I love all the plants here, and what's really cool for me is that a lot of the plants are plants that are local to me, like they are plants I can find in my garden or outside in the tropical climate where I live in, so that's also really nice. But some of them are more northern hemisphere located as well, such as the rose, for example. So there's a good mix here of everything. But for example, ylang ylang, you know, there is an ylang ylang tree not literally a few meters from where I'm filming right now. So I appreciate those personal touches for me. That's why I love this deck so much. but I truly believe any plant lover, any nature lover would really love this deck, I think. Let's move on to an indie deck, the only indie deck I have in this particular video, but I'll have more indie decks to show you later in my future videos. This is the Mystic Healing Oracle by Line in the Moon. So Line is a French artist, super talented, and she created this particular oracle that you can find on her website. So I will leave her Instagram and her website below, and I believe she actually has recently released a new oracle that I don't have, but it looks really good. It didn't come in a box, by the way, just to let you know. I think you can choose if you want a pouch with it or not. I had pouches at the time. I don't anymore. I've run out of pouches, but at the time I had some, so I didn't get the pouch that goes with it. Here are the backs, and as you can see, it didn't come with a guidebook, but I believe there's a PDF you can get. But it did come with little how do you call that, key phrases. So for each card you get a keyword, and that particular keyword is translated to English and Spanish. For that particular reason, I have put this deck in the category croissant, as you might have guessed, because this is easy to understand. Even if you don't speak French but you speak English or Spanish, you should be able to use the deck thanks to those little translator cards here. Again, I think the guidebook is PDF format you can get from her website. Honestly, this is a type of deck that personally I don't use guidebooks with, because I find it so intuitive. The artwork is so beautiful and it's so linear, a mix of paintings and collage, and there's different medias here, and it's very unique. Like, it's very her, I guess you could say. I really enjoy it. I find that it has beautiful mix of energies and cards, and there's an interesting system to this deck. Some of the cards are sideways, by the way. I know that bothers some people. It really doesn't bother me. So there's an interesting concept to this deck, which is they are regular cards. So for example, here's my favorite card of the deck, the meditation card, but there are also 12 mothers that are, I guess, goddess archetypes, version of the goddess energy. They're not specific goddess in the sense of Kuan Yin or Mother Mary or Persephone. There are more archetypes of the divine feminine. So let me find, for example, here we have the Mother of Vision. So that's one of the mother cards. We have the Milk Mother, for example. So that's another mother card. And the other cards are more regular oracle cards. So we have the Partnership card, the Ally, Taking Care, Flow. I love this card. I love those little froggies. They're so cute. We have the Past, Black Magic, Manipulation. So as you can see, some cards are very light and some cards are more shadow. So I think this deck is very well balanced. Gratitude, Grow, Hypnose, Dream, Mother of Bees. So that's another mother card. Transformation, Guardian Angel, the Shaman, Abundance. I love this elephant. Initiation. I had some spooky stuff happen with this card, where I had this whole dream where this particular being came to me in my dream. It was epic. We have the Moo card, Rebirth, Jealousy. I love to read this deck intuitively. I never really use the guidebook. There's so much you can get from the keyword and the images that this deck really sings on its own. Here we have the Mother of Healing, I and Mother of Fire, and Mother of Love. They're at the end. Gives beautiful healing reading. It's very inspired by the divine feminine. I totally recommend to check her Instagram out and her work, because she posts a lot of her painting on Instagram. She shares a lot of her journaling and stuff, and she's just a really interesting creator. So I will leave her links below. Let's move on to mon oracle magique, L'âme. This is by the publishing house Lotus et l'Éléphant, and this is part of a series of oracle around different themes. So this is called my magical oracle, the Soul. L'âme is soul in French. They have an animal one, they have a crystal one, they have lots of different kinds. This is the only one I have, the purple box, and it's more general day-to-day kind of type of theme, so you're gonna see from the images. But if you type Mon Oracle Magique, you're gonna see the different categories they have. I think they have a fairy one and an angel one. They keep coming out. You know, when something works, usually we see a lot more of it. So it opens like this, and though this might be one of the cheapest oracles I've ever bought, like I was saying, it's mass market, and in France it retails for 12 euros 90 for 40 cards. So I'm glad, because everything is coming up crazy prices. So when you see an oracle deck for less than 13 euros, you grab it. The guidebook looks like this. It's in color. For each card we get a keyword, we get your message, we get an action, and we get a mantra. So really cool. There are some little spreads in this deck, and this totally for me is in the category croissant. I believe that even if the only French thing you know is ooh la la, you would still be able to enjoy this deck. Look at those backings, first of all, beautiful. I think one of my favorite backings of all decks I own. The cardstock is very glossy, that's something you need to know. I mean, look, you paid 13 euros for it, you can't expect much, right? It's not terrible, but it's just very glossy, and yeah, it's affordable cardstock. So this is for me a very everyday type of reading that I would feel comfortable to use for everyone and everything, especially for clarification with tarot readings. I think it's fantastic clarifier, and I really believe that the depictions do everything. You look at the card and you know what it means. For example, here we have duality. Here we have harmony. This is celebration of life. This is peace, dreams. Here we have patience with someone weaving. You know what I mean? It's like you get the image and you get what it's about. Here we have reconnection. So I really feel like for me this was well suited in the croissant category, because even though there is a guidebook and there's messages you can translate, for me the images are really intuitive and they speak of themselves. Like this is a grieving card, really beautiful. I love that there are different representation in this deck. There are some male presenting figures, there are some female presenting figures. We see people from different ethnicities. Overall, this little deck does no wrong for me. Straight to the point, it's a great clarifier, it's a great for daily card pulls, it's great to use with your tarot deck or to do bigger spreads. It's just it's a really good little deck. So here we have the body, challenges, sensibility. I think you have a future, past and present card. Silence. I love this card. It gives me very much hermit vibes. This is the life path. It really truly gives me hermit from the tarot vibes. So as you can see, it looks quite modern. It's quite colorful. Easy to pair with many modern decks. I love this paired with my Modern Witch or with my Lightseers or any kind of deck that gives me that modern vibe, you know, like even the Good Karma Tarot looks really good with that. So really cool little deck. Okay, moving on to another oracle deck. Another mass market deck, another French deck. Do we see a theme here? Yes, we do. That's the point of the whole video, isn't it? So this one is called L'Oracle des Kami et Yokai, and it is by Caroline Duban and Laurence Rasson. So this is mass market, and it retails in France for 25 euros. The box looks like this, and this seems to be already popular with a few English-speaking tarot tubers. I know Ree over at the Tarot Tree picked this up, and she's been loving it, and I'm so happy, because I always love seeing people enjoying French decks. I think it's cool when people, you know, expand their horizon and decide to try something new. I personally love using decks that are not in my language, and I would love to know more. I mean, English isn't my first language, so any deck in English already is pushing me outside of my comfort zone. But I would actually love if you were to recommend me Spanish decks or Greek decks or Filipino decks or any culture that you're from, because I find it so fascinating to learn from each other and to expand our worldview, and I think it just helps us to remember that we're all connected and make us better human beings at the end of the day. This is a Japanese mythology inspired oracle deck. It comes in a little pouch, which is actually really nice. You know, for the price and everything, the production quality of this deck is amazing. The guidebook is really beautiful, really chunky, gorgeous, honestly beautiful. I would put this deck in the category of Cocorico, so the rooster category, because This requires a little bit of studying of the guidebook if you want to make the most of the card, unless you are a Japanese mythology fan, aficionado, student, in which case it would probably be easy for you to understand. But if you're like me and you didn't know anything about Japanese mythology before you got the deck, it could be useful to do a little bit of Google Translate. As you can see, for each card, you get the name of the being represented. This is l'Oracle des Kami and Yokai, meaning that you're gonna have divinities and you're gonna have spirits, I guess you could say. So this deck represents both gods, goddesses, and spirits. So here for each card, you'll get the name of them, you'll get the Japanese writing. What's really cool about this is that in the guidebook, there's a little bit around how to pronounce Japanese. So we love that because we want to make sure that we are doing things right, especially when it's something that's not of our culture, so I appreciated that. And the person who wrote this particular oracle, she has a PhD in history and mythology and the study of mythology, history, etc. So she specializes in that. That's her job as a researcher and teacher. So there's a lot of thought that went behind this deck. For each card, you get a message around who that particular divinity or spirit is, and then you get a message around what it means if you pull this card in a reading. And this oracle is very unique. Like, some of the cards are going to have very specific meanings, such as you might get a pet, and some of them are going to be very broad, such as you're going through a spiritual awakening. So the guidebook is interesting, but I appreciate more so the thought that was put behind helping you to pronounce things and giving you a little glimpse into who those divinities are, etc. Although, of course, this only scratches the surface. If you want to know more about that particular spirit, Kami or Yokai, I invite you to do more Google research, maybe read more books, etc. But as a starting point, I found it really useful for me to get to know more about Japanese mythology. So here are the cards, and first of all, I love the shape. It's elongated and tall. It looks like older playing cards we might see in museums, and I love that. And the backs have koi carps on them. They're beautiful. And then the artwork is absolutely stunning. This particular duo also created a French Celtic oracle deck. I'll show you that in my next video. And so they are on a roll, I guess, to be creating decks around different mythology. And honestly, I'm here for it because I find this particular artist super talented. I find the artwork so beautiful, and so I'm really enjoying this combo of having you know, this particular writer who has a PhD, who gives you a little glimpse and interesting guidebooks, and this art style that is just stunning. So as you can see, each card represents a different divinity or a different spirit. There are some lighter cards and some more shadow cards, and so it's a really well balanced oracle deck. But mostly I find this a joy to read with for the beauty of the artwork. It takes me to another world. It teaches me something new, and it is really stunning to look at. I tend to use one card at a time because I find that it's enough for me. I've done spreads with it and it does work really well. I've never paired it with a tarot deck. I've always used this on its own because I feel like there's enough there to get my teeth into, but I'm sure you could pair it if you wanted to. But I just really enjoy this deck. I think the artwork is beautiful. Of course, if you're familiar with Japanese mythology, you might even want to put keywords here in English around your personal associations with these particular beings and entities. Or if you wanted to, you could even cut this off and create your own meaning. I mean, you do what you want at the end of the day. But for me, it was a starting point into learning a little bit more about that particular mythology I didn't really know anything about. I can't tell you if everything is correct, because I'm not Japanese and I didn't know anything about this particular mythology. I hope it is, considering the person who wrote it, you know, supposedly did a lot of research, and she provides you with a bibliography at the end and stuff. But, you know, I can't speak of how accurate this is because I'm not of this particular culture. I really hope it is, because I really enjoy the deck and the artwork is beautiful. So this is l'Oracle des Kami et Yokai. My battery died, so things might be looking a little bit different, but let's keep going. We have 2 decks left. The next one I want to talk about is L'Oracle de la Métamorphose by Anne Guesquière, and it's illustrated by Izumi Idoya. And again, it's a mass market deck, so this I will put in the category of the flag, the French flag, because it's more text heavy, the guidebook is very large, and so I believe that it would require maybe a little bit more work to enjoy this deck. However, again, if you feel called by the images and you feel called to use it, don't necessarily take my word for it, right? Like, you do you. At the end of the day, I'm only here to give you some guidance and some of my personal opinion, but it's just my personal opinion, and I'm not here to dictate your experience, never. You always do what you want, and I'm never here to judge. Here are the backs, and it is rose gold edged, and on each card you get a beautiful type of watercolor painting, I would say, a name of the card, and you get a sentence. And then in the guidebook you get a lot of information, because so l'Oracle de la Métamorphose literally translates to the Metamorphosis Oracle. So it's all about the dark night of the soul, your spiritual journey, and coming out of the other side. So it's very, the concepts here are very much linked to spiritual awakening, spiritual practice, connecting to source, connecting to the divine. So if those type of themes don't please you, this is not going to be the deck for you, because it's very that. There's actually a fable that the author wrote that makes for almost a third of the book. So all of this is a fable that the author wrote that I guess she kind of downloaded that inspired the oracle deck. And so this is why I've put this in the flag category, meaning you might want to work a little bit with this oracle, and it might need a little bit more effort and stuff to translate. On the Google Translate app, if you get it on your phone, you can open any page and take a picture of anything, and it will translate it in front of your eyes. So we love technology, so you could definitely do that. But as you can see, there's a lot of pages, so it's just something to be aware of. You don't need to read the fable to understand the deck, because then for each card, as you can see, you get an image, you get the message, and you get a ritual or an action. So the fable is not necessary to make the most of the deck, but it can be an added layer. To be completely honest, I didn't really love the fable. I thought it was a bit too woo-woo for me, and I love woo-woo stuff. I love woo stuff, but that was just, there was some mentions about star seeds and stuff like that, and that's just not really my vibe. I'm more 2 feet on earth kind of person. But then I love fairies, and that's probably very woo-woo to some. So, you know, everyone, whatever floats your boats, we all have our preferences. But I truly do really love the cards. I think the messages are really beautiful, and I love this for when I'm having a bit of a crisis of faith and I need some spiritual messages from my guides, or I've also used it for friends or even in readings for others who need a little bit of spiritual guidance. So for example, here we have the divine card, and it says the divine doesn't exist, it is. By incarnating, I am looking to experience the divine. Here we have forgiveness. I forgive everything. I ask forgiveness to my brothers and sisters of humanity. Here we have the awakening. I expand the horizon of my body and the particles of my being to unite myself to the great all. I connect myself to something bigger than me. Here we have soulmates, silence, and it says the silence in me is an infinite state. Here we have masks. I wake up to the conscious of masks of my personality. The treasure, I remember the original treasure that is sleeping in me. So as you can see, the images are gorgeous, and the cards, the messages are very linked around intuitive guidance, spiritual path, the soul, introspection, energy, all of that kind of like work. So that's why I was saying maybe not for everyone, but I find it very beautiful. I find it very healing. There's quite a lot of cards. Let me see. How many? 52 cards. So that's good. I'm greedy. I like when there's a lot of cards in my deck. This, you wouldn't necessarily need to use a guidebook, honestly. You could just pick the card and translate that one sentence and you would be good to go. So if you feel cool to this particular artwork, I think you would really enjoy it. There's a good balance of light and shadow. There's a card around the Dark Night of the Soul, and here we have the wounds. So as you can see, some concepts are a little bit more difficult, but some are really light and positive, and that's life, right? We have both all the time. So here we have sowing, like putting in the earth, and it says, when I'm sowing love in truth, I collect seeds of a beautiful splendor. Sorry, it's kind of hard to translate on the go. I'm probably not doing a very poetic job. I am not being Baudelaire right now. Please forgive me, but hopefully it gave you a little bit of an idea of the vibe of the deck. The backs, I think, are gorgeous. It's like this fractal light or something, this like opening, letting the light in. I find it really beautiful. Hey, remember at the beginning of the video I said you really want to make sure you're staying at the end for a surprise? The surprise is that I'm doing a giveaway with this particular last deck that I'm going to show you. It's gorgeous, but it's one that I've used twice, and I think it would definitely find a better home to whoever of you watches it. So stay tuned, I'll give you the details for the giveaway in just a sec. But the deck that you can win is this particular deck here, which is called the Gulliver Le Normand. So this is a Le Normand deck. It's a mass market deck by Gulliver. That's the name of the artist. She's done another few French decks that I don't have. She's done the Gulliver Tarot, which is the Tarot de Marseille, and she's done the Le Normand. So it comes in a little box like this. And the reason why I want to give this to one of you is because I don't really use Le Normand that much. I have 3 Le Normands, and that's more than enough. I don't need 3. And I feel like this would be more loved and used with someone who actually enjoys this particular system, or one of you who's been wanting to learn, then this could be the deck for you to learn it. Here are the backs, and it comes with a little guidebook, all in French. However, this is a Le Normand, so I will still put this in the category of CROISSANT, because anyone who knows Le Normand knows that the horse cards or the tree cards means the same, whatever it looks like. It's just that that's the system. So the tree means the same thing for every single deck. If you know what the tree means in the Le Normand, you'll be fine. But what is cool about this particular deck though is that for each card you have a little poem and then keywords. So that can be really fun to help you learn the Le Normand system. The artwork is really stunning, and that's why I bought it, because I really enjoy this particular artist. It comes with some little spreads, and it's a really nice little deck, and I think it's really well done. I have edged my copy in silver, so when you get it, for whoever wins it, you'll get the silver edging, because I thought it looked better. And here are the backs. It's a little eye. And then here is what the decks look like. So as you can see, for each card you have the image in black and white, you have a number, and then you have a symbol here that corresponds to traditional cartomancy. So I think that's also really cool for if you're learning, it can be easier to learn. For example, knowing that the dog corresponds to the 10 of hearts. The reason why I got this is because I love the artist and I love the artwork, but I realized I don't use it. So I edged it, and then I thought I'm gonna give this away. So I've literally used it twice. Whoever gets this, the cards are barely touched. I feel like for any Le Normand lover or people who are willing to learn Le Normand, you would really enjoy this. I really enjoyed the guidebook and the couple of readings I've done with this, but I realized that Le Normand right now is not my priority, and this would be very easy for me to get again because it's mass market, so I might as well make someone of you happy. And if I decide to get it again, I can just repurchase it. It's fine, it's not a big deal at all. So this, but as you can see, it's just really beautiful. I find her particular art style really gorgeous, and so this is what the decks look like. It's gonna be a giveaway open worldwide, as long as your country currently takes parcels internationally, because I know with COVID it can be a little bit tricky. So if your country takes parcels internationally right now, all you have to do to win this deck is be subscribed to my channel, and in the comments, whatever you comment, put the word fox somewhere. because cover has a fox on it. So you can comment whatever you want, but just somewhere in your comment put the word fox. Then I'll be able to use a comment generator thing to pick a comment at random that has the word fox in it, and you can win the deck. I will put the details of how long this is open for in the description box. So you'll see in the description box how long the giveaway is open for, because I don't know when this is gonna go live. Between the time I'm filming this and I'm editing and everything. So check out the description box to see how long the giveaway is open for. Once the giveaway is finished, I will do a draw. I will announce the winner on a post on my community tab. I'll try and do it on Instagram as well. We can exchange email and you can give me your address, whoever wins this. And I should be sending you this little deck from Reunion wherever you live. I wanted to give a little thank you for everything you've been giving me lately, all your love and support and kindness. So I hope that some of you are interested and I hope it makes someone happy. As we would say in French, mes amis, c'est fini, c'est terminé. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Part 1 of my French decks. Like I said, don't worry, there will be plenty more parts coming. I hope you enjoyed my very scientific readings. And I hope you enjoy seeing all of my French decks. As per usual, I just want to say a huge thank you for making it to the end, a huge thank you for being here. Until my next video, I'm sending you so much good vibes and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Au revoir!